Hello everyone. Let's we begin with the session number 43 of units 4 for the sixth semester computer science. Under that, the categorical paper which we are going to study is a computer network. In this session that we are going to deal with a detailed understanding of how the IP address methods and what are the IP address methods, what are the different IP address methods are really concerned about it, and how these IP addresses are technically implemented, and how these IP addresses plays an important role in identifying a different physical computer system, and what exactly you mean by IP address, and what are the different variation that we can keep in addressing the IP methods. uh, in extended to this, in this session, again we are going to study an IP datagrams. What datagrams and what are the relative datagrams are useful, and how these datagrams are essentially required in handling complex mechanism of these addressing techniques. Well, one more important advantages of this particular topic is IP address not only address physically a computer system, it also recognizes logically how these systems will identify the destination for transmitting the data packets to define addressing methods which we locate in the header of particular datagram. So there is a very close relation between IP addressing methods and IP datagrams. Let's we begin with one of the important session in a computer network system called IP address methods and IP datagrams. This is a 43 session of computer network. Okay. What is an IP addressing? IP address is a 32-bit long. It usually written a 4 decimal numbers separated by dots. So dot is a decimal notation. Here the dot we use for decimal notation to separate or the segregate. Segregate in the sense or sometimes we called as a logical partition of each individual physical system of computing. So this means in hexa, each of the 4 hexadecimal number is called an octet. In each octet, there is a separate address mechanism. For example, here we are trying to indicate 137 207 192 003 or simply an 89CFCO03. What does exactly it means here is one particular 137 is identification of a system, 207 addressing of particular system ID, 192 address location, 003 is a respective machine code that is being dedicated to address of the system. Now, further I'll explain you in a few more sessions that how these IP address will relatively useful in identifying the system. The number of address bits used to identify the network and the number to identify the host vary according to the class of particular address. What the class indicates and how these different classes are identified and segmented with the help of classification of addressing methods. Routers or gateways have one or more address methods depending on the number of links that they are going to establish in the system. Okay, there are the three main address classes are the class A, class B, and the class C. Please make a note that these classes are very essential and important in addressing the various techniques. And there is a common question: what do you mean by IP addressing? Especially when those who are appearing for a university examination, it's a common question: is what do you mean by IP addressing, and what are the different classes in IP addressing? So, by examining the first few bits of an address, each IP software quickly determine the address class, and therefore its structure is similar to uh, our techniques in which that we are going to adopt, which are going to adopt in a usage of these addressing techniques in the next few sessions, in the next few classes, right? Now, for a class A, that is an addressing of a class A. Here, first dotted decimal number in the range 1 to 126 is an address mechanism of an IP which is categorically belongs to a class A. Similarly, class B have a first dotted decimal in the range of 128 to 191. Please remember this because 126 after 127 is not there. This means that 127 intentionally kept as a network address between 1 to 127 means the last bit is in the octet will recognize as a parity. So again in the next class B address we are going to start from a 128 or maybe sometimes if you are allocating you can start from 129 also, that doesn't make any difference, but 128 to 191. And again in the 191, before we move on to a class B, class A, the network address is a 1 to 127 and the host address is to 0 to 255, 0 to 255 and 0 to 250. This does not make a difference. But in a class A IP address, the initial is 1 to 127. If you refer to a class B IP address, it always starts from 129 or 128 to 191. This is a class B IP addressing method. So class C have a first dotted decimal number in the range of 192 to 223. This is how the each classes that we are going to segment in identifying the different classes of it. Right? Okay. We move on to a next important slide here. There are the 5 forms of an IP addresses. Class A 126 networks each can have up to 116 M2 2 nodes of it. So this means that 1002 it will start from 126,000. In a class B networks each can have an up to 64. This means that node starts with 127 or maybe 128 or 00, 191, and when we recognize a first number easily we can trace out whether it is a class A, class B or the class C of an addressing method, class T a multicast address where the more number of address can be broadcasted simultaneously, it's called multicast address. Class E is a reserved for future use. So class D is a 2, it begin with a 224 and the class E reserved for future 241 and other things. So there are the 5 forms of an IP addresses that we use in designing and setting up IP configuration. Either it may be a static wise or dynamic wise. Now if you look into the IP address format, 5 forms of IP address. Class A, 0 is initial start host, that is hopping number. Net ID is a recognized net ID of that of 8 bits is reserved, and remaining from 8 to 31 is a host ID is been reserved. Now in a class B there's a 2 parity 190 net ID followed by host ID, and in a class C 110 is been a class C structures, dedicated class C for a parity verification. In a class D 1110 remaining multicast address. In a class E 4 times of 1 and 0 and reserved for future use. This is how, but most commonly we always engage with either the class A, class B or class C. So class D and the class E is reserved for multicast and reserved for future usage of in a rare cases, right? Now IP address, for example, the address binary of this long has a decimal dot notation like a 128.7.15.1. So it belongs to a class B because it's starting from 128 and the network ID is a 128 in which the host ID is 15.1. Okay, now if you technically divide the network ID is 128.7, in which that 128 is a beginning static hopping number or the number of converted ID form, in which the 7 segments been identified with a host ID as a 15.1. This is the way that IP addresses looks like. Now in the class A, the first bit of an IP address is 0. It is an address of class A network. And it is always necessary to identify each and every class of A with the first initial number, and easily by seeing the initial number, easily we can trace out what particular IP address that we are going to address in the category of a class A. Or easily by seeing an IP number, the address of that particular class can be traced out with the trace route. The first bit of a class A address is identified with the address class. The next 7 bits identify the network which we are going to address physically, and the last 24 bits identify the host. There are fewer than 128 class A network, but each class A network can have a million of a host, which each system is uniquely identified in the world of global internetworking or general networking system. So further classification, in a class A, what happens here, the first 1 bit is used to determine the class to which the address belongs to class A, and the 7 bits of remaining are used for network addresses. Therefore the number of class A network can be 2 to the power of 7. This means that is equal to 128, right? Number 0 is not used, and number 127 is used for testing a loopback for each host, so that we can confirm the termination of address with the help of 0. There are 126 potential class A network numbers which have a first dotted decimal number in the range which is always belongs to, means which is always begins with 1 and reaches to 126. Please remember, there are the 24 bits used for the host address. Therefore each class A network can have a 2 to the power of 24, means 16 billions host. Class A is not available to the general public, and it is restricted to special users in a networking. And final class A formats like a 7 bits network port followed by 24 bits host port. So it is always necessary to how the 7 bits network port and the 24 bits host port will work technically. Right? We move on to the next important discussion, that is in the class A. If the first decimal number in IP address is a 1 to 126, then it is easily recognized as a class A address. Always you need to note this particular address begins with 1 to 126. The first byte is for the network number, and the next 3 bytes are for the host addresses. So this is all about a class A category of IP addressing technique. Now in the class B, what happens if the first 2 bits of address are 1 and 0? Because these are initial hopping, we called as a start and stop. So start is for initial address and stop for where your address is terminated. So 1 and 0. Class B network address of 1 and 0. The first 2 bits identify the class. The next 14 bits identify the network, and the last 16 bits identify the host. Okay, so therefore it is always a necessary, there are the thousands of class B network numbers. In each class B network can have a thousands of hosts. That is the criteria of class B. And class B, the first 2 bits are used to determine the class to which an address belongs to the class B address. Similarly, 14, this means 6 plus 8 bits are used for network address. Therefore the number of class B networks can be 2 to the power of 14 is equal to 16,384. There are 16,384 class B network numbers which have a first dotted decimal number in the range of 128 to 191. And the last 16 bits are used for the host address. Therefore each class B network can have a 2 to the power of 16. This means that 65,536 hosts can have addresses at one shot. If you apply the permutation and the combination, there's a many number of addresses can be easily identified. Okay. Class B final format looks like this: 14 bits network port and 16 bits host port. So if the first decimal number IP address is a 128 to 191, then it is called the B address. The first 2 bytes identify the network and the last 2 bytes identify the host. These two are very, very important in the class B. Now in the class C, if the first 3 bits of address are 110, it is called class C network because 110 means 110 is the initial hopping. The first 3 bits are the class identifier: 10, then 0, 0, 10, 110. The first 3 bits are class identifiers for our network addressing, IP addressing methods. The next 21 bits for the network address, and the last 8 bits identify the host. This is a very important in a class C. There are millions of class C network numbers. However, each class C network can have 254 hosts in addressing class C. Now further, in a class C, first 3 bits are used to determine the class to in which an address belongs to the class C address. Similarly, when we say that 21 is a bits that we used for identifying your host, your address in which that you are trying to initiate the octet of a data, then each number of a class C 2 to the power of 21 is equal to 2097 152. These number of a potential class C network numbers can be allotted to a system of that particular category, which have a first dotted decimal number in the range of 192 to 233 of a class C. And last 8 bits are used for host address, even though it is look like a very small bit of octets, but each class network can have a 2 to the power of 8, in the sense 256 host can simultaneously broadcast without any interruptions. Similarly, if class C final format, how exactly it looks is 21 bits network part, that is a porting of your IP address. Remaining 8 bits host part are for this thing. Class A is over, class B is over, class C. So if the first decimal number in IP is 192 to 233, this means that it belongs to class C. Then first 3 bytes are for the network address. The last byte is for the host address. So you need to remember of these important issues. Now come back to an IP datagrams. How does a packet or IP datagram travels across an internet? What is a datagram? Datagram is a general form of a structural data in which the data is isolated, or data is isolated in a packing format. See, I'll give you one simple example is whenever we want to transmit or whenever we want to send it something, we cannot send it in a loosely coupled manner, or when cannot send it in isolated manner. We have to pack them in a group or pack them in a bundle, then transmit. So the bulk of data transmission becomes a very simple, and it can be recognizable where you want to address to a destination. So a router always receive a packet, but before that host has some responsibility. Those responsibilities can be easily identified in the IP datagrams in the method of data transmission. One is it creates a packet. It's a very simple. Please note that it creates a data packets and it places the destination address in the packet header, means where you are trying to send a particular data packet to a destination, and it sends a packet to a nearby router. Easily it can identify where you are planning to send it, right? So your source is addressed, your destination is addressed. Now the thing is how, whom you are asking to carry that. So when you write on the parcel that where you are trying to send it, that is to address, and who is initiated for sending the data packet is a from address. From and the to address is been written on the data packets, but it has to be taken a responsibility stake is how these data packets to be travel over a network, that is we call as a transmission or a transmission of data or communicating of data to a destination. Now in this case what happens here is a router receives a packet and it uses the destination address to select the next router on the path, and it forwards a packet in definitive manner so that it will get an acknowledgement that data packets are sent properly. Now eventually the packet reaches a router that can deliver the packet to its final destination. This is how a simple carry and forward, address and forward, and accountability of a forwarded message can be recorded at the host side, and as well as the packet in which the addressed is being stored, right? Okay, and now one more important discussion is in the IP datagram, it defines a packet format that is an independent of an hardware. Whether you use a Linux format for the connecting a servers, or whether you use a Windows data servers, or whether you use any kind of a including in server addressing mechanism, it defines a packet format that is to be independent of your respective hardware. So if you're using a simple system, isolated system, or we can call it as an autonomous system, or the system is in higher scaled, which is already tied with many of other accessories, is also as a host, or the simple isolated or autonomous system. But there are the certain term which we call as a virtual implications before an IP datagram, which is a universal and virtual packet of that particular data is called IP datagram. Now, in practical part of understanding IP datagram, please make a note. IP datagram format is not tied directly to any hardware and it cannot keep changing. So this means it is a dynamic and independent to your hardware, which is already present in your system of local area network or the wide area network. And the underlying hardware does not understand or recognize an IP diagram. It only a physical address of that particular layer will address the conflict between an IP address system one to another system. Okay. Instead of that, each host router in the internet contains a protocol software that recognizes the IP datagrams. And these IP datagrams are technically are those datagrams which are consist of header followed by data area. So it's called, and normally this header is called content header or information header, or we can call as a initial header. I mean, technically speaking, it's a index of a datagram, right? And whatever the data area in which known as a payload area, what amount of data, what amount of data that you are carrying is called the payload, or sometimes we can call as data content load. So here the data content load will recognizes what amount of data that you are trying to transmit, right? So it consists of two. IP datagram is always consist of header and data area. Now IP datagram header, if you are using in a constructive system of any operating software or any operating system, it has datagram header contains the IP address of the destination. The ultimate recipient which is used to forward the IP datagram should know where it has to be addressed. And the datagram header also contains the information such as IP address of the source, where exactly the data is initiated. This is called the original sender. And this original sender is always what do you call as uh, address of from from address. This is an original sender. And a field that specifies a type of data being carried as a payload is a content address. Okay. In important, each address in the datagram header is an IP address. And the MAC addresses for the sender and the recipient do not appear in the machine system, but it address. And each field in IP datagram header has a fixed size. This makes a header processing efficiently because it does not vary dynamically. If any IP datagram keeps on varying dynamically, then it is machine cannot identify the exact place where it has to be located. Is one of the important concept. And each header consists, as I said, version, length of header, service type, what kind of a service that you are planning in this particular datagram, and identification and time to leave, what time that it has initiated for a transmission, that is a journey of a beginning, type of data, stream, unstream, bits, bytes, and other things, and the total length of that. Flags indicates a fragmented offset and which consists of a header checksum, and source of an IP address and destination of IP address. Of course, source and IP address are the two important logical partition. Like similarly, what I said in the packet, that you have to write to and from address, right? So here each IP options of additional payload can be omitted in case if it is not fitting into a IP datagram. And a padding process will occur even though if it is having a loose packets of datagram or some datagrams are empty, then we have to pad them. So padding process beginning of a payload data behind a sent in the real transmitted data. Now IP datagram fields, VRS, as I said, each datagram begins with 4-bit protocol version number. It shows version 4 of an header. And each time easily we can identify in a synchronous mode is what type of a version that IP datagram is carrying. And HLEN, it's a 4-bit head specifier outer of totaling to 32-bit quantities in the header. If two options, the value is a 5. And the service type, as I said, 8-bit that carries a class of service for the datagram, like maybe a seldom used in practices, which we call as a service type. And there are the many number of service type that we need to indicate before sending as an IP datagram on realistically. Now the one of the important is total length of particular datagram. 16-bit integer that data that specify the total number of bytes in the datagram, both including header as well as a data. What does it mean by including header and the data? It's a very simple. We cannot segregate the datagram either in a sending in a form of continuous or in a discrete nature. We cannot segregate both header and the data element in a datagram, right? How do we identify? Each 16-bit usually sequential assigned to a datagram used in a fragments 2. Flags 3-filled data with an individual bit specifying the whether the datagram is a fragment or the datagram is not fragmented. It's called the simple flags we used to set the criteria. Now in the process of how time to live, this is one of the important. So here 8-bit integer is initialized by an original sender, decrement by each router that process the datagram. If the value reaches to a 0, this means the complete datagram is discarded and an error message is sent back to a source that we didn't receive any of the payload. That's a very important here. That is called the time to live without a data payload. Now the type, 8-bit field that specify the type of payload is called the type. And header checksum is a 16-bit one's complement checksum of a header fields, which is clearly indicated of what is the data information which we are trying to send it. Next is source IP address. This is one of the important tasks in the IP address. Source IP address in the sense the person who is initiated sending a data packets, I mean a datagrams into a destination, it automatically the system will initiate to stamp in. System will initially stamp in for your source IP address and the destination IP address before departing. And there are the if options. Optional header files used to control the routing, but provided sometimes it may be skipped. And padding if option do not end in 32-bit boundary, 0 bits of padding are added to make the next header to a multiple of 32 bits, which is a simple. And how do you forward an IP diagram? The internet uses a next hop forwarding techniques, especially, and each router along with particular path of an addressing. Please remember, we receive the datagram, we extract the destination address from the header, and we uses a destination address and forwarding table to determine the next hop, which is the datagram should be sent. Then the router forwards the diagram to a next hop, either in the final destination or the router to hold it whenever the possibility of transmission is required. And forwarding table is filled with the entries by routing algorithm, so how many number of datagrams has been carry forwarded, which is of course in instantaneous, but all these things happens in nanoseconds. The forwarding table is initialized when the router boots and must be updated if topology changes or hardware fails. This is a very important. And here how the forwarding IP address takes into real transmission. So in the figure 22.3 in the textbook, referred textbook, shows an example of internet and the content of forwarding table for the router R2. R2 is a router name where before initialize the R1 has some data elements, addressed daily data elements, which is forwarding with standard of masking techniques of R2 ends with an R3. Now these are the number of destination and these are the mask and the next hop. Okay, this is and transmission across an internet. So whenever we say an internet has the wide scope, I mean internet has a wider spectrum as per the datagram is concerned. The reason behind is we know that encapsulation applies to one of the transmission at a time. This is called masking mechanism. That is a one hop across a network at a time. So in other data packets does not come to know that what are the data packets that we are dealing in a transmission of it, right? Okay, now if host and the router source a datagram, the memory with additional header can be included. Now in this particular representation is a simple representation of how the source host, it may be net1, contains of a datagram including the header 1, which includes where exactly that host and other things datagram reaches to a router 1 of a datagram. In a net2 it identifies as an header 2. Then again a header 1 is reinitializes to give a one more new token number, and second token number passed to a datagram. This is a net2. After transmitting from net2, again router 2 is initialized in the net3 consisting of header 3. So data packets which is taken a journey from net1 to a net3 has dynamically initiated to change the address in a 3 times. So from net1 to net2 has changed an address, net2 to net3 has changed an address till it reaches to a destination host. This is a simple pictorial representation in the form of. Next is MTU datagram size and encapsulation. The maximum transmission unit is called MTU. This is a very simple mechanism to address how many number of amount of maximized data that is been frame is a carrying as a payload. And each hardware when technically we specify its own MTU, that is a maximum transmission unit, then at least it includes a minimum qualified criteria. So like such as there is no exception in the mission transmission, and it must be smaller or equal to an MTU. If it is a bigger, then you cannot carry the payload into the real system. And difficulty stage here is, in a heterogeneous network, a router can connect the networks with the different MTUs. That's a very, very important in the system. Now, fragmentation and reassembly. So, this is a question they asked in the last few years in one of the paper, that what do you mean by the fragmentation and how reassembly is to be carried out, increase fragmented data to be connected to host and an addresses that are floated in the world of journey or transmitted mode. When a datagram larger than the MTU, maximum transaction unit of that particular network, over which it must be sent, the router divides the datagram into a smaller pieces called fragments, because it has to be cope up. When you are trying to send a data packets of 32 bit and it is an 8 bit of channel octet, then all this 32 has to be fragmented into 4 different frames. And these 4 different fragments are equally important, because if any one of the data packet lost in the transmission, then your 32 bit of a data does not play an important role. So, except the received distorted data. So, this should be avoided with following a same format as another diagram. So suppose in the 32 bit, the 4 different bits of data packet, say each carrying an 8 bit, means 4 structural octets, 4 structural datagrams are essentially to transmit this particular load of data. The flag field contains a bit that means of datagram is a fragmented and which has a relative references of another data fragmentation. And a fragmented data, when you receive at receiving end, you have to coin them, you have to associately coin them to see that how these things will rejoin. So each fragment has a copy of original header with the fields modified necessary to see. Say for example 128 1, 128 2, 128 3, 128 4. So this 128 has a 4 fragments. So each 128 of 1 is a parent, apparently it is connected to a parent datagram, right? So we move on to next important discussion here is how reassembly is to be carried out. Because if we cannot reassemble the datagram which we sent in the form of a fragmentation, then feasible of reading, feasibility of a reading get lost. Okay, reassembly in the sense the process of creating the original datagram from the fragmented is called reassembly. And the final fragment is a special bit of header that all the fragments have to be arrived successfully. And generally, you know what happens here is in internet protocol, each ultimate destination always need to reassemble. If it cannot follow the guidelines of reassembly, then the tying up the previous fragmented datagrams, the data packets which we are hosting, may not be feasible to transmit. Okay, two advantages of assembly at an all the time that we used to discuss. One is it reduces the amount of information in each router, so that sending a big data fat table to a smaller table is always a feasible, always a feasible to isolate, transmit in the form of fragments and receive it without any distortion. And it also the meters to change dynamically. The reason is, as we know, that it has to be allocate the different addressing techniques. Okay, So this will perform the reassembly, the simple forward fragmentation system. Okay. We move on to a next important discussion, to a next unit. Before that, I just want to stop the today's discussion now here only. Till then, have a good time, keep reading, and understand the concept of computer network, because it will give you a different dimension of how these computer network plays an important role behind these many transactions that every day we are experiencing. Okay. Thank you. Have a good time.